Well, why bother to work hard for your YouTube channel and create great content and organically grow when you can just go and buy views? Why bother? Welcome back to Minus 16. The three amigos are back in the seat. The tech podcast where we talk not only about the issues of tech, but also, of course, the real dirty news of what it's like to run a YouTube channel as well. And we've got some stuff to talk about, some actually very spicy stuff to talk about when it comes to the YouTube part a little bit later in the episode. But there's quite a bit to go through. And I know this is a tech podcast, but we can't start the tech podcast out with an Aussie on without briefly mentioning the Ashes. What a first day that was. What a first day.
It's all.
Oh, he's gone. In fact, that's how bad it is.
Sorry, it was just as quick as Australia's batsmen were in, I was gone.
I know many Americans listen to this, but yeah, 19 wickets in the first day. It's I don't know what the baseball analogy of that would be, but it was a shocker. But I think it's all to play for, and it could be a 5-day match, could be over in 2 at this rate.
Looking forward to setting in for a 5-dayer.
Anyway, back to tech. We're going to be talking about why people don't seem interested in thin phones at all, how clever Apple are with their services side of their business, and then also, well, why bother to work hard for your YouTube channel and create great content and organically grow when you can just go and buy views? Why bother? All of that is to come in this episode of Minus 16. So let's talk about the thin phone, shall we? Now, this is something I think Daniel and we talked about briefly in the last pod. Samsung are delaying their next Edge, aren't they?
Delaying, cancelling, those two words are interchangeable.
Yep, exactly. So where does it sit with the Edge? And why do you think there were problems with the Edge?
The Edge for me kind of was almost DOA, dead on arrival, because they didn't launch it at the same time as the other S25s. And they kind of created the hype and people were like, oh, a thin phone. And it's called the Edge, like Samsung's old Edge. And then there was no information about it. They don't tell anyone availability. They just said more information coming soon. And Samsung aren't really a brand that can kind of get away with that. Like they're not Apple. When Apple released the iPhone 10, they announced it and didn't launch it until November, which was like 3 months later. And everyone went crazy for it. Whereas I just don't think the Edge had that same appeal. And there was already too many other options priced with good value around it. And people will, the use case for why thin phones wasn't really made properly. It wasn't really given any explanation or marketed in a way that sort of said, well, by going thin, you're gaining this. And everyone just looked at the price point and went, well, I can get the Plus or the base model and theoretically get more on paper. And that kind of maybe put people off.
Yeah, this is just my opinion, right? I even though I speak with Samsung, I'm sure you do as well, Daniel, they don't share that information, in detail with us. They don't really talk about their strategy. But I feel, this is my opinion, that they misjudged that appetite for a thin phone, the same way that Apple did. But, in the industry, they probably knew Apple were going to release the iPhone Air and thought, let's kind of get ahead of them. That's my opinion. And then kind of it fell flat a little bit because, as Daniel said, no one is interested in a thin phone. That appetite was created by the iPhone Air. There was a lot of people in my comments saying, I went to buy the Pro and I ended up leaving the store with the Air. And whoever got, the Air swears by it, loves it, and thinks it's the greatest things ever. But when you look at the specs, the S25 Edge is way, way better. So I think if Samsung, let's say, was to announce an S26 Edge, not having done anything this year, that would probably sell a lot more, because I think the thin phone, would at least have had some time to bed in from a concept perspective. But yeah, coming in first, I don't think in this scenario worked for them.
Well, I
think too, the Edge didn't really launch with a plan. Like you said, it was basically just like a reactionary, proactive launch.
Yeah, it feels that way.
Without a proper launch plan as to why people should buy it. There was no marketing about why thin, and it didn't really make people care about it.
There's also a case to be made that I think we're all just being swamped. I mean, we were talking, I think you said Samsung got 5 new phones outside of the Fold and the Flip.
5 S25s, yeah, 5 S25 models.
So 5 phones. So outside of their Edge, you've got 4 other ones you could go and buy. With iPhone, this is, if you include the Pro Max, there's 4 models available from Apple. And looking at the prices there on screen, I mean, that's where Apple really killed themselves, I think, with the Air. I really enjoy using the Air, but £100, $100 difference between that and a Pro.
No,
you've got to be.
and when you look at all the stuff in the market, it's just like, for the sake of being thin, if that price was $750, it would have sold way more, I think. But to have like
Different
a
proposition
device
then, right?
that you can get the Pro for $100 more is like,
Yeah.
I just that was my reviews. Great device. I can't recommend it. Unfortunately, it's at that price. That's basically it. If it was cheaper, I don't know. Even the 16E, I think, is overpriced for what it is.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. 100%.
It is. I mean, of course, that makes up for in corporate sales, and people are enjoying using it because it is the cheapest way to buy into an iPhone. So I get a lot of comments saying, I'm really happy with it. It does everything I want to do. And I get that. But at that price point, at $699, if somebody outside of the tech space, because my use of the Air is really niche. I use that instead of the iPad now. So if I'm in London or something, I want to look at script points. I just put the Air in my back pocket, pull out the Air. Oh, that's what I've got to talk about. Pop it away.
Yeah.
Much easier than an iPad, but that's so niche. I mean, and that's how spoiled am I to have an Air that I can use just for note taking.
But then you got the iPhone 17, right? $200 less than the Air.
Yeah.
And that's a value proposition that, again, offers you more theoretically on paper. And there wasn't really enough done selling the Air concept, because it's a phone you need to hold in your hand. Like, you can't just show someone a picture of it and they understand it. It's something that you need to physically, it's a tactile experience because of how light and thin it is at the same time.
The first time I held the Edge in the summer when I was at that event with you, Alex, it was like, oh, wow, that's what thin phone's about. And then, of course, buying the Air, then it's beautiful. It's a lovely device to hold, but you can't sell something.
It's not just thin, right? It's extremely durable and very capable, multiple lenses.
But
yeah.
The same problem exists for Samsung as Apple, because weren't you saying it's about 150 150 Australian between all the price points? Roughly?
Mostly for the models, for the base models, you've got sort of a small jump from Fan Edition to base model S26 to Plus to Edge to Ultra. But there's just too many. Like, if you eliminated the Plus and made the Edge the Plus, right? And you kind of gave someone limited options, I think the Edge would probably attract more people because it reduces what they're available. But Samsung don't really like doing that, because outside of the S series, there were like 5 A series models as well, which sit just under the Fan Edition. And they're very good value offerings
the
too.
56 is amazing, I tried that one.
It's an amazing phone design-wise, but also just
arguably better designed than the others.
So let me get right. Your job used to be flying around telling Samsung guys and employees how to sell all these different models.
Oh, that was brutal, having to differentiate the nuances between.
I bet
there was like an A72 and a S20 FE, and they were almost the same phone. I was very good. The only thing you miss out is wireless charging, and people are like, I don't care.
They're very good at kind of understanding that markets are different from a budget perspective, and that helps. South America, Asia, they're all very different in terms of what they can afford. So the Ultras may not be the best devices to sell in those countries, unless it's for a very thin slice of the market. But I would say also that, I don't know if it's something to do that, historically we always, as a consumer from a tech perspective, we always thought that thinner is better. I remember thinner laptops, thinner TVs. I'm not sure a thinner phone translates the same way. And maybe that's what companies are realizing now. It's like, well, hang on. It's okay to have a thin TV because that's cool and it's useful and it's better. And it's also more economic now with LED technology. With a phone, there really isn't, a good, unless you are going to keep higher specs on them eventually.
Well,
but to have a thin phone for the sake of it being thin, I'm not sure there's a big appetite for it.
And it's kind of like exchange Samsung for Apple at that point, because Daniel just said that, maybe not dead, maybe delayed, exactly what Mac Rumours just said there. But in the background, there's also rumours going around that the Air is being delayed because they want to put in a vapor chamber and a bigger battery and another camera. So, how do you get a bigger battery in a device that's that thin? And also,
or maybe more capacity,
where's the price
rather
point?
than bigger.
Maybe. And where's the price point going to be for that? Because
if Apple just released that vapor chamber, bigger battery, extra camera, they may as well call it the iPhone Edge, because that's exactly what the S25 Edge is. It's the bigger battery than the Air. It's got a vapor chamber and it's got a second camera. That's the same. It's exactly what Samsung just did. And to the credit of other manufacturers now, massive batteries, relatively thin bodies for the battery size they're putting in. Like, the battery tech is there or thereabouts from a capacity level. It's just maybe they're not ready to jump in on.
I think that's been that's been the narrative, Samsung that is, to say, we're not comfortable with putting those batteries in because we don't know longevity wise if they're going to last 5-6 years. The new version of this tech, because silicon carbon isn't the new thing anymore. There's multiple versions of it now, and the latest tech in that battery is durable. At least that's what people like Oppo, for example, are putting 5-6 years. If it goes below, I think Oppo are saying on this phone, the Oppo X9 Pro, which is one of the phones of the year for me, is overexposed at the moment. Anyway, it's either 7,500 or 6,500. It's a ridiculous amount of milliamp hours. It does translate into like 2 days, sometimes 2.5 days battery. But they're saying if it drops below 80% of battery left in 5 years, that's covered by warranty, and that's incredible.
Wow.
To have that backing.
This wasn't on the run sheet, but I just want to ask the question: do general consumers actually care about battery life? Because if they did, they would have thrown Apple iPhones away 5 years ago and never bought them again, because their batteries on the 6, the 7, the 8, awful battery life, yet somehow they stuck with them. So is battery life really a purchaser driver for the majority of consumers, or is it just something we're being told about?
I think it is. Yeah, I think it is.
I totally agree. I mean, I think people also, it's become part of society now that you just reach for a charger. You expect to go into a pub or a bar and say, "Can I borrow your charger?" You expect your phone to be dead. You don't expect it to get through the day.
I think there's a difference between caring.
But
yeah, I think there's a difference between like, do people care? I think they absolutely do. Is whether or not, because it's Apple, how high is that in the priority list? Is it better to have a phone from a status perspective and still put up with a battery not being good? And I think people will probably say, even though I hate the battery on the iPhone, I'm not getting rid of it for a green message bubble on my chats. It's that sort of mentality, I think, unfortunately, that people still have. And I think also, when you look at, I don't know if you guys saw this recently, but there's this amazing channel in China who does this incredible, there's like a whole team. They did a 2-year experiment on battery testing.
I did see the commentary about it on Twitter.
I'm so glad they've done that, because it's like, it proved what I always thought, right? Like, there's not much in between whether you charge your phone overnight or you charge your phone every now and then. The difference between the different approaches at the end of the day is like 1%, 2%. It's like, so stop worrying about battery. But battery capacity does matter, and longevity, of course.
And again, slightly off the run sheet, having been through Terminal 5 this week twice, is the amount of advertising from both HONOR and Huawei really heavy through the terminals. Everywhere I turned, there was billboards. Whoa, that's a piece of packing.
This is
that's bigger than my stovetop I just put in.
That's gling to the max, right? This is the Pura 80 Ultra. I got a lot of thoughts on this, which
I bet you have.
Amazing cameras, but the software is really challenging at best. Yeah, it's tricky.
Yeah, visually, it wasn't the necessarily most attractive kid on the block, was it?
It does generate amazing photos, I gotta say. But yeah, they've gone, a bit crazy with the design there.
So I think sort of hardware-ish, we kind of, because it is a quieter time of year. But then something struck me last night. I was thinking about the pod, and for so long, Daniel, and this isn't a Samsung dunk or whatever. Rightly so. You've been 100% Samsung. I totally get it. Totally understand it. Great brand. But even Apple managed to get their claws into you with services first of all,
Services,
and
yes.
football. And that's kind of I kind of wanted to talk about, because Apple recently, of course, they're no fools, and they're spreading out their wings, and they've just brought up this deal where they're going to be, for 5 years, if you live in the US, now as part of your Apple TV subscription, you can get Formula One, all of the qualifying, all of the races, all of the post, and they're apparently going to take Sky's. Yeah, they're taking Sky's commentary, they think, to start with, for no extra cost on your Sky sub. And it's not as if it ends there, because, of course, Formula One, yes, massive. They bought the movie, of course. They made the movie happen. But it's stretching far and wide, not just with the football that I mentioned there, but also with, where was it? I had something. I think it was that one. Yeah, I think it's this one. Yes, so Apple are teaming up with Real Madrid. And the clever thing there is they are making exclusive, look at that, the documentary will be Apple immersive format. So in other words, they're telling all those Real Madrid fans, you want to see a great behind the scenes documentary about your team, go and buy a Vision Pro. So kind of, if you've got enough money, you can then make a product that's not selling, kind of appealing, and for sales. The services side of Apple are so, because I'm right, you bought the ones, you watch Major League, don't you?
I don't.
Yeah, MLS.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah. So that's where they kind of first got into it, and I know they're still big on that. So that was one of the other things they were looking to continue with. That's the Major League.
They're merging.
Just starting now.
What I noticed is they merged the MLS season pass into Apple TV, so you don't need to pay extra for season pass anymore. It's just part of the Apple TV subscription.
Exactly what Formula One,
included, which is nice. I guess that means I'll be able to watch slow horses officially instead of the unofficial methods I've been using. Apple, it's very smart. If you're a fan of business, it's incredibly smart business and
safe returnable income.
I'm not a business fan. I'm a product fan. So ultimately it's like, okay, but obviously you understand that they're diversifying a portfolio and putting forward a extra thing, but it's only in the US. So
yes,
this fragmented thing about where things are available and what platform just continues, because you don't know which country has what rights. And the fact that sports have just become this megalith when it comes to TV rights and being able to sell them to individual countries at different prices, and it's a mess. And that kind of just leads into how that still is a mess, even though they're trying to clean it all up properly.
But of course, yes, totally the licensing I get, particularly when you look at something like a behemoth of Formula One. The licensing of that internationally must be a nightmare to go through. But equally, where you said you're, tech and a hardware man, that's where Apple, in my opinion, are being clever, because the way they bring in the Vision Pro, they're pushing their products. And of course, the more you keep watching an Apple product, the more likely you are to go and buy an Apple TV or another Apple TV or an iPhone or an iPad to watch your content on. So it kind of does tie very neatly. So even if their products are beginning to dwindle, their services are taking off. And of course, it's safe, returnable income, and all the time bringing you into this whole Apple bubble, isn't it?
All I could say is thank God I'm a Barcelona fan. Don't have to buy a Vision Pro to watch that.
It was worth mentioning, though. I just thought, they are a very shrewd business.
I
Apple
support
TV
a real team.
Yeah.
But you watch a fair bit of Apple TV as well, don't you, Alex?
When I can, yeah. Some like Hijack and Slow Horses. Yeah, a couple of. And what was the other one with? They went into this building and forgot who they were, sort of thing. What was that called?
Oh, Severance.
Severance.
What a show!
So those I do watch, but nothing else.
Note for your diary, Jan 14th. Yeah, Shrinking's awesome with Harrison Ford. Yeah,
Shrinking's great.
And note for your diary, January 14th, Hijack 2 starts.
Oh,
streaming.
Really?
Yeah, that'll be
good.
good.
Again?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Trailer's already out.
Yeah,
Trailer's already out there.
Right.
Yeah, there was a big cliffhanger in Series 1, wasn't it?
Yes.
I want to say on this Apple thing with Formula One in particular. I think it's if you're Netflix, you must be really, because let's face it, the reason Formula One is, it's always been popular for fans like me. I've watched it since the 80s, every single race. But I think recently I've cancelled Sky, but I just watched the highlights. But I think it's been great for the sport what Netflix did with the Drive to Survive series.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's probably Apple is basically collecting the fruit of that because
100%.
if it wasn't for Netflix, because it's always been in America. People thought
It was dead, wasn't it?
racing is NASCAR and it's Daytona and all those things, and there's nothing to do with Formula One. Formula One was always seen as that
the pretty
much
boys going
horsepower.
slowly.
They're not really that powerful cars and whatever. Now, with all the drama, and it helps as well that the championships have been really exciting recently. So I think Netflix must be kicking themselves.
Absolutely, they've created a beast, haven't they? And of course, that brought in a lot of females, a lot of younger girls were watching it, and the age group has come right down as well. So suddenly, it opened up to this whole broad base of people that weren't interested in Formula One, and it's sex works. It's the Vegas Grand Prix this weekend.
I do hope they don't ruin it like they did with Ted Lasso, though.
That's one thing I've never watched. I've never been interested in watching it.
Not being misogynist or anything. It's just
So moving on from there, we mentioned at the start of the episode that we were going to talk about some of the shenanigans that goes on with YouTube, and there's some nefarious is probably the wrong use of the word, but sometimes we have to hustle a bit. Sometimes we just have to make the business side of it work, and there's been a lot of talk about bought views and demands from sponsors and the business side of the business that, like it or not, we have to get involved with.
I'm going to get my popcorn for this.
But yeah, there we go. Yeah, get a drink, get a coffee, get ready.
Yeah, so this, I've only seen, this wasn't shared beyond, what I've seen, but it was, so we won't mention any names. But the crux of it, just going back a little bit, when this first started, I'm pretty sure it was end of 2023, perhaps, that we started to see this trend of like massive views, very low engagement. And look, we all have different thresholds of what we accept as our values and what we care about and whatever. And also, we all have different ways to look at the channel. So the way I look at my channel, it might be, will be completely different to someone 10 years younger than me in a completely different niche or whatever, right? So I think bearing all of that in mind, from my perspective, when I was seeing in my niche, so in the tech industry, in the tech space, people earning huge deals, but not returning, to the brand, not returning any more than my silly, small little channel would return. That started to impact because, when I speak to the brand will say, no, we chose this massive channel here. Let's say, for the sake of argument, Unbox Therapy. And that's because, we get the huge visibility and, it's a better return on investment. And I'm thinking, okay, fine. But when you look at the return on investment, kind of argument, it's like you're getting hundreds of thousands of views within hours, but they're not real views. And we proved it over and over again that these, obviously, Unbox Therapy is a almost like one of the worst offenders, when you look at some of those videos. But there's like way smaller channels doing exactly the same, right? And the brands were initially oblivious to it. I do have a bit to say about brands being more savvy now and being open to being educated. And I think, there's a podcast called Aspiring Creator by Pete Matheson, who has been a guest here a couple of times already. He raised that point as well, which is really good. But back then, I remember thinking, what do we do here? Because obviously we're losing business because brands are choosing to go with creators that are perhaps gaming the system a little bit. In my view, in some cases, defrauding the brand, right? Because, we'll put a link to Pete's podcast here because he goes into a lot of detail.
I've got it here to share as well.
Yeah, but in some cases, the brand will basically, let's not get a copyright strike here, but the brands will basically sort of pay for the creator to publish a video, which we do. And then if the creator boosts the views without telling the brand, without doing anything like, above board, maybe not even in their contract that they're allowed to do it. That's an important point as well. And in the scenario that Pete shared there, the creator boosted, 98% of the views that were boosted, fake views, if you want to call it, were to a country where the product wasn't even sold, like India. So the boosted views went to India, where the product isn't sold. To me, that's clear like fraud. I mean, there's no other way to say this. And it wasn't unbox therapy, but it was a massive, massive channel. It's been doing YouTube, tech YouTube, for over a decade. So I do sympathize, and I do agree with a lot of what Pete is saying there in terms of how unfair it is, right? Because in this situation, they chose to go with a creator that was doing this, kind of defrauding the brand effectively, instead of going with Pete. As it happens, that same brand had already worked with me a few months ago, and with me they were fine. They're absolutely fine, no issues. You know, the product's actually really good, and I'm using them again at CES. But it just tells you kind of how different some brands might be with different creators and their experience. But what I'm seeing on a positive side is that the brands are now open to being educated. And, in this scenario,
you can talk to them.
They were kind of saying, okay, thanks for sharing this. I mean, I did this last year, exactly the same thing. I didn't do anything publicly, but I went to the brand, for a deal, and I worked with the brand since the channel existed, something that we always do every kind of tech season, like Q4. And they said, no, this year we're not going to do anything. And it's like, oh, okay, fine, no worries. I'd say we don't have the budget, whatever. But I then, a few days later, realized that they did have budget and they did choose to work with another creator. So I was like, oh, well, fine. I do not care, right? It's the brand's power, is the brand's money. If they choose to spend it with a different channel, so be it, right? It's business. But when I looked at that channel, because we all do, so what is it that I need to learn, right? How is it that they didn't choose me this time? You have to be a little bit aware and say, about what do I need to improve to get that business next time. But immediately, my suspicions was kind of confirmed. The channel that they chose was also massively boosting the views, and the brand was oblivious to it. So I just said to the brand, look, I know you went that way. That's fair enough. But just so you know, this is a tactic that the channel is using. And they didn't know. And they thanked me and they said, okay, fine. And they actually gave me the business to work with them last year. So, but I didn't do what Pete is almost whistleblowing there and going quite public on this, but without mentioning names, which is fair. But it is true that that is a very tricky situation we're being put in, because in a way we're like, well, I don't want to lose business. So if the brand is happy to boost the videos, and if you put some guardrails in it to say, right, all you're doing is above board, right? Is YouTube's, and if you watch YouTube creators channel, they are actually recommending you to do it. Is that crazy? Because I'll get into why I think that's crazy in a moment, because everything's above board, right? YouTube's recommending it. Creators are not doing anything particularly wrong if they're using the YouTube platform to do it. But in some cases, they're choosing the countries like India because it's cheap to advertise it. So if you put $100 in India, you get 30, 40,000 views. Right? In the tech, I mean, each niche is different, but you get all these views and not a single comment, not a single like, nothing, no engagement, right? Which is why I think, are these videos even real? And Google, bless their socks, are now kind of offering free consultancy calls about how to advertise, how to promote your videos.
You mentioned that. I've had endless emails this week about, please get in touch with us. This is, I know, Don from Google. I want to talk to you about advertising.
Yeah, I've been batting them off and saying, no, I know it. I see it. I've seen enough, right? It's like, I know what this is, pretty much dodgy views. But this time I thought I'll entertain you, right? And see, can you explain to me how a boosted video gets no comments? So they said, all right, well, they basically said, you're doing it wrong. You shouldn't do it via the YouTube promote function. You should do it via the Google Ads platform. It's like, okay, I don't want to advertise my business. I want to get this video to be shown to real humans in this industry.
That's going to interact,
to me that's what advertising is, right? I want to show it to a specific audience in this country.
Demographic, surely.
And I want them to engage as well, right? It's not like I don't want to show it to someone who is interested in the video for them to just click off or whatever. So they couldn't explain why the YouTube promote function wasn't generating any engagements, but they said that's not the way that those ads are shown. Don't allow the viewers to comment. It's like, okay, what is the right way then? And they said, okay, well, they took me through the whole step, and I said, I'll chuck 50 quid on this old video and let's see what happens after a week if we get any engagements. And guess what? Nothing happened, right? Zero engagements. I got, I think it was 20,000 views, US, Canada, UK on an older video. I did notice that using that platform generated a different curve of, if you look in view stats, for example, it's very easy to tell when a video is boosted. It's like you get this massive spike and then a flat line. In this case, for that week where the video is being boosted, it wasn't a drastic jump like once a day, which is what you see with YouTube promote. Like once a day, you get this massive spike and then nothing for another 24 hours. With this, it was trickling over. So I thought maybe they're right? Maybe they're actually showing it to real humans. But again, 20,000 views, not a single comment, not a single engagement in the video. So I still believe, and this is just me saying this, that these views are not shown to real people. I don't know what YouTube is doing, but it doesn't feel like they're being shown to real people.
I feel like there's almost some creators are cluing on to the fact that low comments means low engagement but fake views. There's this YouTuber, and again, I'm not going to name names, but what I will say is their content almost exclusively for the last 2 years has been Samsung tips and tricks. And it was very similar to sort of what I do, but it was just top-down shots, very exclusively, just used to post Samsung videos, and that was it. Channel stopped growing because he was boosting his views for Samsung videos for some reason. Anyway, about 6 weeks ago, he grew 50,000 subscribers in 2 days out of nowhere. Right. And then all of a sudden started posting sponsored videos. Every video was a RoboVac or a mop or AI voice recorder or a speaker or earphones. And they're all getting 100,000, 50,000, 60,000 views. Some of them have about 300 comments. And you look and read the comments and it's just 2 words: great review, great video. I like this product. Thanks for sharing. Thanks for showing. Just constant stream of what looks like bot comments. And I don't know how they're doing it, but they're almost like clued on that as long as they make the comment section bigger, people won't believe, it'll make it look legit. But it's clearly not, because when you go onto view stats and check it, it's that spike and then nothing still. So,
and that's even worse, right? Because if you're getting those fake bots that means they're not buying views, they're not promoting the video legally through YouTube's platform. They're not buying YouTube advertising. That sounds like going outside of YouTube and buying like bot farms, sort of click farms views.
But I could tell this person's strategy, right? Because they ended up making a second YouTube channel. They started a second channel from scratch to continue their original content that they made, so they could almost turn this channel into an infomercial channel.
Just a cash cow, yeah.
It's crazy, right? I mean, this
totally
shit isn't easy, right?
understand that if you just want to make money, you can game the system like that, and you can be profitable for maybe 1 or 2 years and then kind of move on.
That's got to burst at some point, right? That bubble has to burst, because I think when 5 years ago, maybe 6 years ago, YouTube was still very much about community. People joining or subscribing to your channel become part of your community, and
they wanted talk to you and hear what you had to say, and
I think it's, from a viewer perspective, they probably still want that, but I'm not sure YouTube's platform is geared up to it. The algorithm isn't really encouraging people to, like, notifications. What the hell are they? They don't exist anymore in any meaningful way anyway. The bell or whatever. People are not being shown the videos as a fan of the channel anymore. They're being shown videos based on, are they going to stay on the platform, like TikTok? And, YouTube is becoming that curated thing that TikTok is, rather than
a scrolling beast.
Community, which is a shame.
The point of notifications is very true. I had one of my closest and oldest mates that's been really loyal in following my progress through. He's got really interesting video and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, and he said, I hadn't seen any of your latest videos recently because I had no notifications, and suddenly he's gone back and binge watched. But that's somebody that
Exactly.
subscribed, turned on all notifications,
Yeah.
and not being
But
told.
the point I'm trying to
and then
make
of course,
is.
So I was just going to
Go
say
on,
this with what we come with doing the official route of promoting a video and with 0 comments, and yet when you get sat with invalid traffic, you ask them why, and it's kind of because it's bots that are it's like, well, okay, where's the tipping point here? What's the difference? Explain to me, because like you said, it's clearly not genuine people that these views are coming from. The figures that channel gets on their videos is stupid. And yet, you look at the comments, it's clearly not for real. And a brand's that, I don't know, it just makes you so angry. And I told you guys beforehand, not long ago, I had a brand saying they were holding off paying a second part of my invoice because the views weren't what they're expecting. So I did a promotion and I got paid.
Yeah, and
That's
that's
I felt
very
dirty.
common. That's very common right now. And like I said, some brands are offering, before you even mention anything, they're offering, hey, we want to boost the video. But again, on the positive side, I'm also seeing brands saying, I know the video is not performing as expected. I had like a bunch of negative comments in a product recently. It was nothing to do with the channel. It was clearly a sponsored video. It's all above board, right? They paid for a dedicated video. I did a video. You pays for 6 months of rent in the studio. It's not like, I'm not driving a Ferrari here, but McLaren maybe. But the point is, they said, we don't want you to hide the comments or delete the comments. We want that feedback. We want to kind of use that as a way to improve the product. And I was like, wow, how refreshing. They're not caring about the views being low, and they're not caring about the comments being negative. They want to see that. So I think that's good. And I hope more brands kind of go that way. But the point I was trying to make earlier about the community, the fact that YouTube isn't a community-based algorithm anymore, is more about like, let's keep people on the platform and scrolling, is because if we went back to how YouTube was, and I doubt this will happen, I think views will still be lower for certain products, but there'll be more real people watching them, and more real people perhaps being shown a product that they might be interested in the future.
Exploring,
and therefore we win, because we obviously get those sponsors to be happy and come back, and the brands win. YouTube, on the other hand, might not win, and this is why I think it will never go back to that model, because ultimately YouTube wants you to spend more money promoting your bloody videos, and if you see the writings on the wall, right? YouTube's features about removing a placement. Have you seen this, where you are allowed to remove or replace an ad with another ad for a video that you already posted? You can then later, say 6 months later, if you agree with the brand, that segment will be replaced with another ad. But that is via YouTube. So you can guess that YouTube's will be taking a cut and managing that placement.
Partners and so on. Yeah.
So, it's I hope the kind of the bubble bursts a little bit, and people stop this gaming the system. Let's go back to level playing field. If your video is better for the brand and will get more conversions, awesome, well done. My inspiration is to get as good as you, to kind of, how do I win that business fair and square, rather than saying, oh, you bought some fake views in India, and now I'm losing out on that deal because the brand chose you based on that number, based on the fake views number.
I mean, I also
wish
got
I
to
could
the
do
part.
Donald Trump infraction.
I also got to that part in Pete's video where he was saying that a brand had got back to him and said, we haven't had many conversions out of it, and he was saying, no, it's a brand new product to these people. They've just heard about something they've never heard of before. How can you expect high conversion rates? But it's just, again, such a valid point. And we all know that some of the time we're asked to talk about things that we're going to struggle to make interesting. It's just the nature of the beast. But we're giving them exposure.
In some cases,
try and tell brands, I try and tell them, look, I've got a highly focused channel, and a dedicated video on my channel for a product that is outside of what I make videos about normally is not going to land. Like, you're better off with an integration. It'll cost you less, and
But
you
you get
get
more
probably more
eyeballs.
exposure because the video, the core video, will actually be aligned to the audience. Oh
Yeah,
no,
and
we
you as
really
a
feel like
creator will make sure
we
you
want a
you will try
dedicated
to
video.
embed that video, right?
I'm like, but what? I don't understand. I had one brand complain that the video that I made didn't do very well, and then they squeezed a free integration out of me because they're like, "Oh, it didn't get many views." So instead of paying for views, I just gave them another
That is
60
actually a
second cut
tactic.
down.
Yeah, that is
Which
a,
is exact. Pete was just saying that on that
tactic.
video, wasn't he? I
Yeah.
just heard Pete say that he was having to do this like apology short for them, and why? You know, it's nothing we ever talked about. And what were you expecting? What were your expectations? Maybe that's a way.
The video,
I
the
think
video I
in that
made got
scenario, it wasn't
3,000
actually-
views.
What was
which
it
I thought
dedicated?
which is a dedicated video of a product that has nothing to do with Samsung.
Yeah,
like,
that's not bad. Yeah.
That's not bad, but they
got
were
3,000
expecting more.
Yeah, of genuine viewers, 3,000 genuine viewers. I would have thought it's pretty damn good. If they're sitting through an 8-minute video about a product that's nothing to do with Samsung on a Samsung channel.
Yes.
In some cases, right? And this is kind of me, I just criticized YouTube, but sometimes, my video from yesterday is a good example of this. I've posted a video and it's 9 out of 10, 1,000 views after 24 hours. But I know, just looking at the profile of that video, I know that video will do well eventually because the previous one did exactly the same, but is now at 50,000 views. So I think brands also need to be a little bit patient with YouTube.
All three of us snap. Yeah,
YouTube will eventually, in some cases, like they don't find your audience at all. But in this scenario, where it's a projector, so it's not really my lane, but I went above and beyond. I look at a lot of reviews for this projector, and I'm always thinking, okay, note taken. I need to show this better. I need to show this use case better. I look at the comments. I say, what do people want to see? And I incorporate all of that in my video. And yeah, it's a lot of hard work. I mean, I'm working to 2, 3 a.m., sometimes, 4, 5 a.m. It's kind of to get those videos to a point where they're useful. But the views are not necessarily going to come in on first day, like 100,000 views. In some cases, like this one for the projector, they're very slow, but just looking at the comments and looking at the engagement, I know that video will eventually
pick up.
Just have a nice grow curve that doesn't stop. I mean, the previous one that I did 7, 8 months ago is still growing after 50,000 views. So I just know that some videos are just slow
burners. Yeah.
But yeah, I think brands need to be aware of that as well, because they will get their money eventually. It's just not. It's almost like advertising on TV back in the day, right? When TV was a thing, you don't necessarily want people to get off their sofa and go to the supermarket and buy a bowl of cereal.
But subliminally, they know
when they do go to the supermarket, it will be stuck in their mind that they remember the ad and they will look at the brand and they'll recognize. It's a similar thing. It's like they don't have to be immediate. This desire to see high numbers of views just to show their boss, or look how many views we got, is so stupid.
If I could justify it by my existence at Samsung, each department of a big business has to almost justify their existence. And some companies, the only way they justify their existence is through
impressions
numbers.
and views. Yeah.
Impressions, especially marketing departments. They don't really have anything else to justify themselves other than the raw data of how many people saw it, how many people viewed it, and was there any call to action. That's really it. There's no other sales data, uplift. They don't have any of that to prove. So they kind of have no other option other than impressions and views. And they don't really care how they get it.
I mean, because that's justifying them. They can show their boss, look, I found this. Look at the exposure we got out of this.
Then it's over to the sales team to do their job to convert the sales.
Yeah. They should be incentivized by conversions, engagement, rather than numbers of views. Because, it's so easy to, as we've just proven, there's so many different ways to go and game the systems, right? Yeah, I can spend $100 on a video and get thousands of views, but, that's not going to sell it's not going to sell a single product for the brand.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I still maintain that I don't think those views are real, even if you use YouTube.
Yeah,
sorry, YouTube.
I would be tempted to agree with you. I think we've had our rant for the day. I think we're more or less sorted.
We could go on, but yeah.
We could go on. Maybe we should get Pete on again and talk about it some more.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we both worked with the same brand and had a different experience. It would be a good chat. Yeah.
Sure. I was actually. Do you mind if I just toot my own horn a little bit? I don't normally, as you know. In fact, on the last one, Daniel said, you make videos as well, because I'm always this person that puts everything I do at the back. But this morning, I don't know if you know or not, every single day, I'm posting a picture onto Instagram and also onto Lightroom Community. And this morning, I logged onto Lightroom, and lo and behold, one of my photos has been featured by Adobe on their home. I'm absolutely made up. I was walking to some calls one. Yeah, I looked. I thought that looks familiar, and then I saw my logo, and so I was really, really pleased. Just batting away.
How do they find it?
I don't know. I've paid no money. All I do, I've got a channel, and every single day I post. Every single day. That's a screenshot, but every single day I post a picture on my channel, mostly urban, and that one I nearly didn't put up. I thought that's too boring. But I didn't do any weirdness. I was using a wide-angle lens, but that curve is, and you'll know probably where it is, Alex. I was walking to St. Paul's.
It looks like Cheapside or something.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So I was logged on this morning, and I thought, I was on their homepage. I thought, that looks suspicious. What? Yeah, so there you go. That's made my day.
Looks like that a bit of a theme for the day. It looked like architecture and nature, so keep putting tags in, and I guess that sort of helps.
Urban's my tag every day. So, nice. I just got back from, so that was a high point of my day. Thank you. Anyway, that was enough of my horn blowing. So we're back in a couple of weeks' time. The three of us will be back in our seats again, ranting and raving about everything that's going on in our world.
I might have a like Daniel's levels 10 next time. I'll be in Bali for a week, so
enjoy the sun.
I'll have another 2 weeks with the M2 Ultra Max Studio under my belt, so...
I've never used an Ultra. Used an Ultra.
So can I just say, this year he had an iPhone, a MacBook.
What is wrong with
Apple TV?
I don't think you can call yourself a Samsung fanboy anymore.
I can see a second
realization
channel coming.
I just had there, that actually hurt me. Alex, thanks.
And as much as you're getting sun, Alex, I was in Edinburgh this week, and I can tell you, at one point of the video, I had to go into a coffee shop just to warm up, and I said to this lovely woman, I said, I will pay you when I can feel my hands. I can't even get to my phone at the moment. My hands were, and I woke up in the morning, I was having to do a lot of screen recording and actually show things happening. And by God, I was cold. Jesus.
Now, did you happen to be in Scotland?
She probably thought, what a wuss.
Yeah, I know. I was there with hood, hat, scarf, and I saw people in shorts and T-shirts. I'm walking, what?
Yeah, come on, run up.
Did you happen to be in Scotland when they qualified for the World Cup?
Yes.
That would have been the scenes I was watching on TV. It looks like incredible.
That was my first night of that I was sleeping there, and I wondered why are people going down the street at 3:30 on a Tuesday morning? Or what's going on? I have no idea. Yeah, so
they would have drank for like days after that.
The week that's been. Yes, there you go. Right, well, there you go. Thank you ever so much for watching and listening. We'll be back in a couple of weeks' time with another episode and our thoughts on what's going on in the world of tech and YouTube. And until then, take care, and we'll see you very soon.
Cheers, fellas. Bye.